Welcome, everybody. Can we have everyone who is not sitting in the circle currently come to the circle? And everyone who is in the circle, if you're able to stand, please stand. So usually for this event, our mamas are all in the center circle, and all of our non-mamas, our kane and our keiki, are holding intentional space for the mothers in our community by standing on the outer circle. Hi, boo-boo. So we're going to start. Lolo, it's time. Come. Come sit in the outer circle. You can bring your coloring. It's time to stand in the outer circle. So I just want to ensure that all our keiki are reminded that you're here to hold space for your mamas. So can I have all of our keiki, after you get your food, you can get your food first if you need food, but I do want you to sit and find your space on the outer circle and intentionally hold space for our mamas today, okay? Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. This is Wild Mama Voices. Hi, Pele. Hey. So our intention with Wild Mama Voices is to amplify the voices and stories of mothers. We are intentionally trying to shift the narrative around what it looks like and means to be a mother. And there's really no way to shift that narrative if we don't tell different stories. And so that's why we are gathering every month in this circle and in this space to intentionally do that. And we sit in intergenerational space because it's really important that we see motherhood through the ages and stages and not just new mamas, not just certain levels where, you know, we're still pretty young, you know, we're still really young. So we have perspective, but we don't have perspective. So we always appreciate when our elders and our kupuna come because y'all got years on us, and we really need that kind of perspective. And so, yeah, when y'all are done eating, make sure you come into the circle, and you're also allowed to eat in the circle, so don't hide, okay. We don't do traditional introductions here. I think it's really important to speak a little bit more deeply about people beyond titles and accolades. If y'all want to read that, we do have her bio on our website. But I always like to honor the person that is sitting next to me from my lens, even though we are still getting to know each other. This is just what I feel today. So I'm so honored and elated to welcome my dearest Pele Bennett. The way I would describe Pele is warm, welcoming, generous, down to earth, with grace, and a touch of sass. I love that Pele moves through spaces and places as herself, never putting herself above or below anyone else. I feel like she knows and honors the space she holds in this life, which makes the spaces she creates inviting, accessible, and relatable. I admire her realness about her own journey, her willingness to try new forms of creative expression, put herself out there, and even open her home to create necessary spaces for women to gather and connect. Pele, I appreciate you for being true to you and honestly seeking to just live the most honest version of you. I appreciate your genuine vision and love for art. I also deeply appreciate how you see the light and gold in others and seek to uplift it and give it a stage. I remember when I came to your house and met you for the first time, I was so moved by the light and story you saw in my sister, Dee, and that you opened space for her to share her journey, even bringing to light things I didn't know. I appreciate that you are grounded and secure enough in you to give the women around you space to be grounded and secure too. Thank you for joining me today and being willing to share a glimpse into your life and journey with us today. I'm grateful for our budding friendship and for your authentic support for Wild Mama and spaces like these. Thank you for being here. That's Pele. So thank you all for being here. Pele, do you want to say anything about yourself that I didn't say?
Oh, about myself? No.
So before we get into our conversation, I just want to quickly explain what you see here in the center. So everything we do at Wild Mama is centered around the sacred medicine wheel. So raise your hand if you're familiar with the sacred medicine wheel. Anyone? Yep. Some people. So the sacred medicine wheel is something that a lot of indigenous cultures, particularly African and Native American cultures, use to help orient themselves to Grandmother Earth and to life. And each of the directions has their own energy and their own intention, so that you can sort of use it as a way to ground yourself depending on the season that we're in. So I'm just going to describe this briefly, and then we'll get into our conversation. Okay. And this is how our ancestors gathered, okay? So we are intentionally sitting in circles, sitting on the floor. We got rocks in the middle, because this is how they used to do it. At least this is how I imagine they used to do it. Okay, so each of these that have a leaf under it, these are the main directions that we're going to be focused on. So up here is above, and that's for Grandfather Sky. That one down there is below, that's Grandmother Earth. And this here in the center is whole you, and it's your center. So above is Grandfather Sky, and it's all about your vision. Your vision is what helps kind of guide you, give you perspective, and helps you not get lost in the day-to-day, which is very easy as a mama. You can get real lost. And then below is Grandmother Earth. So Grandmother Earth, we think about it as your pillars, and we think about it as your values. So if anybody feels kind of like they're floating a little bit, like not grounded, not sure exactly where you're going, usually that means that there's some more roots and values that need to be established. And then the center, whole you, that's where your life force resides. That's where your life force flows. And actually for us mamas, that's where our womb is, and that's our source of creative energy and flow. And then you have the normal directions that you're likely more familiar with, which is north, east, south, and west. And right now we are ending spring and coming into summer, right? Because it's like the 13th. Yeah, we're coming into summer. So we're moving out of the spring, which is all about kind of like awakening, pause and presence. And we're moving into summer, which is all about practice. And one of our core values at Wild Mama is imperfect action. So we really like the summer to practice imperfect action. I think the patriarchy tells us we got to be perfect, and we actually don't. So this is a way for us to practice, still showing up for ourselves, even if it's imperfect. And then the West is all about purpose. And we at Wild Mama believe that purpose is living aligned to the energy of your soul. It's not about your job. It's not about particular things that, I think society tends to value more. It's more about, are you living honestly in alignment with the energy of your soul, whatever that may be right now. And that is your purpose. And then the North is all about death and rebirth, which one of our aunties talked about. Death is actually the beginning of life. And so this is where we think about death and rebirth in this cycle. So this is always going to be here every month at Wild Mama Voices. It helps to center us and root us in the rhythms and cycles of Grandmother Earth, which when we align to the rhythms and cycles of Grandmother Earth, it helps us realign back to our own natural rhythms and cycles. So this is a huge part of Wild Mama and how we root ourselves in everything that we do. So I just wanted to ground us in this before we get into our conversation. Cool? Cool. All right. Pele. You ready?
I'm ready. I feel like I need a drum roll.
Anybody? Drum roll, please. Hey.
Oh, thank you.
Amazing. So I have so many questions. Again, I just met Pele like last year, but I really do enjoy you. And I recently went to your art show. It was just awesome. So thank you for just being you. I appreciate you. So you and I share something in common, which is that we became mamas young. So I'm really curious if you could take us back to when you became a mama. How old were you, and what was it like for you becoming a mother at that time?
Let's see, which direction should we go? I just want to say also real quick, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for having me also and being in this space. And I already told a few people this, and I mentioned to other people, but I don't get to come to these events all the time because I'm usually out of town. That's honestly why I don't come if I'm not here. But the last few times I was able to come, I always came a little depleted, and I remember saying that on the mic last time because I really was, just from regular day stuff, not anything crazy, just regular day stuff. It just gets chaotic, and when I came here, I was like, didn't have anything to give, and today too it was a little chaotic, and I come here and I'm so open for all of you, but also I'm like, I literally know when I come here, I'm gonna feel full. Because every time I've come, I've been like, woo, and then I get here and then I leave, and I was telling someone earlier, I was like, I go home and my husband's like, well, you seem, perky and happy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good now, because, I got my energy back from all the ladies and the women. And so it's something about all of you guys that come here, and it really feeds my soul. So I just want to say thank you for that and creating this space also.
Yeah.
Sorry, I throw that in there real fast.
No, it's all good. Thank you. Thank you. So take us back. When you became a mama, what was that like for you? How old were you?
So I was, okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was really young. My oldest is actually here with us right now. I have 3 daughters. She's back there, Peyton, Blake and Ollie. My oldest, Peyton, is with us. So my husband now, we were high school sweethearts, and so we were dating, I think I was 15 years old. He was like my first boyfriend, my first kind of everything. And so we were together all the time. And now looking at it, having a 17-year-old, I'm like, okay, there was a lot of things that, we shouldn't have been doing. Why did our parents let us do certain things? We were together all the time. And so I'll get straight to the story though. So my husband, I love him. He's the love of my life from a kid, still is to this day. But when it happened, the news, I actually was 19 years old, and I was leaving the house. I was moving out. I was going off to college, and that day I was supposed to go meet my girlfriend to sign a lease for our place that we were, moving in together. And I started feeling really sick, and I was like telling another girlfriend of mine, I was like, I don't feel so good, and she's asking me like, what are the symptoms? So I'm giving her, the usual symptoms of what's happening. And she was like, I don't know, maybe you should just go to the ER. And I'm like, it's one of those things where like I see my mom, my grandma, I'm like, oh, you're fine, just it'll pass or whatever happens. But I was really feeling out of it. So I went to the ER, and there was actually a cyst on my placenta. I'm trying to look, this was a long time ago. I'm like, what was on me again? It was a cyst, and so they were telling me, all the different things that were happening, and so I had to just see if it would just go away on its own. So I waited. They told me while I was there that I was also pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh. Of course, I immediately started crying. I was terrified, shocked, scared of, I want to start crying. I'm also a crier, so I'm going to be crying a lot today, so I'm sorry. But I was terrified. I was terrified of my parents, but not only terrified of being pregnant, I was terrified of letting everyone down. I felt like because that happened to me, I'm like, everyone's going to think that I'm a bad person, or, I did a bad thing, ooh, a no-no, one of those things. So I was so scared to the perspective of everyone else. And I think that has been something to this day that I'm constantly fighting against, because even though when you say you don't care, that's when you usually do.
Yeah.
So sorry, can I get a little tissue? I did put some waterproof mascara on, so we'll see if this holds up. But no, I think motherhood and getting pregnant, so many things that, are like pillars to my life, they make me very emotional. And I feel like just talking about my children or so I told Tiff before, I was like, okay, girl, I might be crying a lot, so I apologize.
Good, don't apologize.
But yeah, so a lot of that came into it, and then also my parents are both Mormon. And so religion comes into that. So there was a lot of different things that I was just terrified, and I was also obviously a young woman. So I'm like, my world is ending. You think of all the worst things possible.
Yep.
I was terrified to my mom. So I went home. I, of course, mustered up the guts to tell them. And my mom was shocked. She kind of just went, quiet. And then when she did start to talk to me, she was mad. And she was also same thing perspective. I'm like, now what is everyone going to think of you? It kind of went like this, like this. And so that started happening, and my father, he actually fell to his knees because my oldest sister also got pregnant at 19. So I think for them also, how I internalize it now is that they felt like they messed up, but they were lashing it out also on me, as if they did something. So Yeah, so I feel like a young person in general, you don't really realize what's happening at the moment because you're more worried about everyone else's ideas of you and how that makes you look. But I told my husband, my boyfriend then, Michael, I told him, and he was smiling. He was happy, he was joyful, he was so excited. And I was like, it made me a little bit confused. Because I was like, why are you so happy? I'm like, your parents also are going to kill us. And, our family already knew each other for a while now. And all of our siblings and everyone started melting, like aunties, uncles, because we also lived in a neighborhood away from each other. When I say we were together every day, we were together all the time. But yeah, I think that was like, I also know it's a blessing in disguise. And so for me, looking a little bit after that, it was like something I needed. Because the other roads I was going down, I look back at it, like what if I had went down these other roads? My pregnancy halted that. It let me think, reflect on my future and what I had to look at the moment. And so I think I look back and I feel that obviously my daughter's here and I love her. She's amazing. But it really was a blessing in disguise. And I feel like how, we were talking about different things of the universe, God, whatever that is that's controlling the path of your life and journey. I think that was one of my moments that had to shift. And for me, it happened early.
Yeah, same. Wow. And so after that happened and you did have some time to sit and reflect, did you have a sense of values that you were like, okay, I'm going to ground in these values? Did you have a sense of the kind of mother you wanted to be early on?
Yes, so my family is full of women. I have a lot of sisters, I grew up with a lot of aunties, just a lot of women around my life, and so for me, it was grounded within the women.
Yeah.
My sisters, immediately came to me, they weren't upset, or maybe they didn't tell me, but they just came with love. My mom eventually got excited, everybody starts turning the leaf and they're like, oh, what are we gonna buy and what are we gonna wear and do this, but I wanna say it was the women around me that really built my girlfriends at the time. At the time also, this was 2006, I knew a lot of women, friends of mine that had babies and had multiple babies. And so for the younger women that I knew around me, they were just like, congratulations, but also we're not realizing what's actually happening because we're so young and it's happening.
Yeah.
I wish we could have looked into the future to look back at us to say, okay, this is, really what your life is about to look like. And so I feel like, if anything, it would be the women my grandmother was living at the time, my aunt's mother, and so she helped raise me, and so she always was, I'll say feisty, but that sass you were talking about.
Yeah.
She was a little stoic, but she was the person I went to. I would go to her when I needed to talk to someone. Even though I had all the women around me, it was my grandmother, and I would go to her, and she would just, to me, be the most authentic, honest, and I feel that at the time I needed her, and she was there living with us in our house. Yeah. So another blessing in disguise that she was with me, but didn't notice that at the time. And so I think it's something about women that bring this energy and this light and this not only nurturing, because I know we're that by default sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just something of the spirit that I don't know if I can explain it, but it's something about that, and also being in a house that your lineage is carrying on through that, and so we're all holding something of the same, and I feel like we all could kind of resonate individually on what they're we're mirroring each other on some of those things.
I was curious about the women in your family and what you felt like excuse me, they taught you about what it looks like and means to be a mother, because I think we all get different perspectives on what it looks like and means to be a mother. Some are martyrdom, sacrifice, you're basically done and it's just about raising the kids. So I'm really curious, in a family of so many strong women, what was that teaching, or just what did they model as what it meant to be a mother for you?
Stress.
Stress.
I was stressful all the time. I think that, well, in our household, the women did everything. I had 3 sisters, and I also had 3 brothers, but I had 3 older sisters, and so I feel that they did it all. The women did it all. I had my mother, I had my grandmother in the home, and then we always had a lot of aunties over. And so for me, I saw women capable of doing everything. but also the moment of having to do it all. Do they have to do it all? And so for me, even though I had, got pregnant at 19, I had my daughter at 20, I honestly was so young, I don't even feel like I could think of like, oh, what I wanted, how many kids I wanted. Did I want a boy or a girl? I didn't even think of a wedding. Honestly, when I got married, I didn't even know what, that would even look like because I didn't think about it. It wasn't something that, not that it wasn't in my future, I had so many dreams and goals of so many other things that was far-fetched for me.
Yeah.
That was even though I was very young still, it was very far down the line. But having all, the women in the house. I'm sorry, can we go back to the original question?
Yeah. No, it was just like, what did they kind of model for you as what it means to be a mother?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel that there was a lot of nurturing in the house, a lot of spirituality, but individual. Even though we were Mormon, so we had a lot of things that we did together, like as a collective. But I noticed like everyone's own personality, characters through their own interest, showed their spirituality, showed their character, showed what they cared about.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it really was, besides your interest, it was of each other. So we would have, we have so many women, so everyone's going through something, but we could always turn to each other. We could always count on each other. And so for me, that has stuck to me to this day, to turn to women. Not as a turn to women as in like to put a burden on someone, but to know that I can find peace and I can find like home, I can find shelter. And so for me, that's really important, to feel safe, to feel sacred, to feel protected.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's always within the spaces of women. And I think that started early in my house with the women in my family.
Wow. That's beautiful, because I feel like for some of us, it's like the opposite. Being in rooms of women, it's like, I do not feel safe. I had the opposite. So for you, and it makes sense for the spaces you now create, because you're so comfortable around women. Women have been safe for you. But I think for some of us, women haven't been a safe place. So I find that really interesting that that's your experience, and then that's what you now can create for other people now. You mentioned a little bit about being young but having so many dreams. What were some of those dreams that you had at that time?
So I grew up Polynesian dancing. My family had a group and my parents met through music. And so I danced since I was 5 years old, and that was like our livelihood. And so we traveled all over the US, we traveled outside of the country sometimes. And so for me, I got to see the world young through, I would say work, but at the time it wasn't until I got older.
Yeah.
It was just like what our livelihood was. That's just what we did. And so to learn all the different cultures of Polynesia, to be able to dance and know the languages, know like different textures, textiles, knowing like different adornments, all those things, like, oh, that's Fijian, that's, someone or whichever. I feel like that was a open gateway for me to see the world, was through like my own cultures in the Pacific, and then as we started traveling, getting to see other places. And so I was also homeschooled for a little bit, and so when I went back to school as a high school student, I was realizing, the world is so grand, so big, but I got to see that. When I went back to school, everyone was like, I'd never been outside of, Houston, where I grew up. I'd never been outside of, the small town. And so for me, it was almost shocking, because I was also around a lot of adults all the time while we were performing. And so being around different peers and people around my age that had never been around, outside the city, it just floored me. Wow. And I think like being able to travel growing up really let me see the sense of the world, and I wanted to know more. Yeah. I was curious. I was like, just a lot of wonder, like what is out there, and also like felt very adventurous. Yeah. I was also fearless, so I was like, okay, I'll go do anything. And so for me, I wanted to live in other countries. I wanted to learn about people. I wanted to learn languages. I wanted to smell food. I love, big foodie. Like I wasn't afraid to try, like, you have to be open-minded, of course, with other cultures. And so for me, it was like, if I saw someone of another culture or something I'm reading, it just like opened a doorway for travel. Yeah. So in my head, I'm like, I'm in another world, but I'm in Houston, I'm in China, I'm in Japan. And for me, I was just so curious. I'm like, how do other people live? Culture, religion, just everyday daily life, their customs. And so also I think it also goes back to me being in Houston and being a Pacific Islander, being Samoan woman, and I am learning through my parents' culture. I'm learning through us dancing as our livelihood through culture, but I'm not living there. Yeah. So my, diasporic lens is different. Yeah. And I'm creating it as I go and as I see and meet people and view things. So for me, it's a lot of that curious. So for me, I just wanted to fly. I wanted to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave. And that doesn't mean only physical, but, reading, trying foods, different things, just exploring.
Just creating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then now you have a little baby. So how does that impact your dreaming?
Halt. It was like, stop. Someone just put the stop sign up on me. Well, for me, I think even though I was so young with my daughter, I have to give it back to my family in the beginning. It was hard for everyone to accept it. Also, it's like when you see so much potential in others.
Yeah.
I think they saw that in me, and then this happened, and they're like, dang, what are you going to do now? But for me, it really wasn't the end. I was still scared, but I have to give it back to my family because without them, the village, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
It did for me. So everybody came in. Peyton was around everyone. All my sisters. She even called my oldest sister Mama when she was little. And I was like, hold on, now what's going on? Because she was just around. So she had so many women in her life, and I mean just people in general. But my family really helped build that space so that I could still go to school.
Yeah.
I had to work still. I had to make money for her. There was so many things that I had to pivot.
Yeah.
I had to pivot on what my dreams were.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like they were over.
Yeah.
I didn't feel defeated, but it's because of my family.
Yeah.
Because I had them with me, I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah. That I really resonate with that because, I also became a mama really young at 22. Yeah, 22. And so I also had big dreams, but you really have to try to figure out how to be a mother and a present mother and figure out what that even means in a society that tells you, oh, you're a mama, your life stops, right? So you're kind of working up against that, but then you also have these dreams and ambitions that you want to pursue, and then you're also trying to heal. For me, I had a lot of healing to do even at that young age. So I really resonate with just navigating the nuances and kind of sometimes having to pivot a little bit, but not letting the dream die. I'll carry the babies on my back to get the dream, we'll figure it out. But it's really beautiful that you had so much support despite whatever their feelings were about it happening. They still showed up, and that feels really powerful and beautiful to feel supported in that way. So how do you feel like you're different now than when you were 19, early 20s, becoming a mother? What stage of life do you feel like you're in now, and how are you different?
Since in that gray area of all that in between space, I feel like so much has happened in my life. So it's not really then and now.
Yeah.
Because all these different things had to happen to get to now.
Yeah.
But today, I feel really good. I feel great. I feel like I needed, that roller coaster ride to get to who I am today.
Yeah.
It took a lot, and so I also have 3 daughters. And so for me, I'm like, of course I have 3 daughters. My husband kept wanting a son. That didn't happen. That was not on me. That was on you. But I'm like, it's just by chance that I have 3 daughters. So I feel like in this moment now of having a daughter in the beginning to 3 daughters now, I'm doing a lot of I always say projecting to them. And I used to feel shameful that I'm projecting on them. I'm projecting on women, girlfriends, girl, if you're a mom, don't let yourself go. Don't do that. Make sure you, give something to yourself, blah, blah, blah. And then I remember some people would be okay, stop, whatever you're doing, don't, it's too much. That's what you went through. That's what you're going through. And I would feel oh my God, I'm so sorry. I would apologize. I didn't realize what I was doing. But today, no. I don't care because how I'm looking, it's not so much of me projecting. Yes, there's things that I probably do project, but I see potential in people. And I think that's my biggest thing today with my daughters and how I viewed even myself. I see potential in myself. I see potential in you. I see potential in everyone and in so many individual people that when I meet them, I'm already thinking ahead. But not in as in I'm gonna plan all stuff for you. But it will start shooting out of me. Because I think that that has changed since I became a mother in the beginning. It's I don't wanna have a shoulda, woulda, coulda moment. Oh, in my 20s, I had a baby, so I couldn't do this. I'm no, I did it. And maybe it failed. Maybe it was great. I don't know, but I don't want to give up on myself. And I feel that's also just life. Because as mothers, you have babies, But hell, you have so many other things that happen to you.
Yeah.
You might, not have rent 1 month. You might not have your car. Like, there's so many other things. You have people passing. So sometimes you think of, like, for some people that haven't had a baby to be a blessing. Sometimes it, has been a struggle.
Yeah.
I think that there's always struggles. And so for me, is that I don't want to not do something because of a struggle. It makes me want to actually do it more. So I can say I did it through all of that, and I got here now.
And what helped you become like that? Like, where does that resilience, that attitude even come from? Is it through the ups and downs, the trials and errors? Is it the women? Is it all of it? Is it culture?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I can't, say, oh, it's just me and one day I woke up and felt that way. I think it's life. You meet all these different amazing people. It's also been my journey with my husband, because we've been together so long, and so we've created, our life has really meshed together. Yeah. And so because of that, I've got to meet so many people in different spaces and on their own journey and see things. And I feel like sometimes you have to keep seeing things to know that things can exist, to know things that they, are real, that they live, and that you can also be there. Or I'm in places that sometimes I'm like, well, why do they have this? Why can't I have this?
Yes.
Or I want this.
Yes.
Not even like, I wish I could have that. No, I actually want this. Like putting that into the universe, and almost like as if you're demanding it. Why not? And I feel like there's so many moments that I've had in my life, in the last 10, 15 years, that I've been in that moment where I'm like, this is nice, or this
like
smells good, or this feels nice, And I feel like sometimes growing up, also like culturally, it was like more to be humble, to be more quiet, don't always have to speak, put your head down. And I think that's beautiful. That was culturally and also religiously, and then also being a woman.
Yeah.
So all of those mixed together, I'm like, well, that's not a good time. So now I'm like, I just want to be in a space that I don't have regrets.
Yeah.
I don't have to guess, could that have happened? Would that have been great? This one idea I had, at 30, was it a possibility? I want to put it into the universe as I'm demanding it for myself. And I feel like sometimes that can sound selfish, that can sound, like, oh, it's all, it becomes about you. But I have no shame, because I also come in the space where we're not allowed to feel that way. We're not allowed to want for ourselves. We're not allowed to want, always good stuff.
Yeah.
We don't have permission also. So for me, it's just like creating my own narrative, carving it out, constantly carving it, and creating lanes and spaces for myself, and saying, hey, I can be here. I can show up, and then putting the work in and letting you know.
Yeah. I'm like, drop the mic. Yeah, I like that. It's empowering though, because I feel like when you show up like that, you give everybody else permission to be like, oh, yeah, damn, no, I do deserve this. I like this. I want this. And it doesn't always have to be about the struggle, right? Because I feel like we all feel like we're worthy of the struggle, but we're not worthy of the ease, right? We're not worthy of the pleasure and the joy, the abundance that is available to us. So I like that you're not just asking for it, you're demanding it. You're like, no, this is mine. And we gonna be in here. We gonna get that. Yeah, I love that. So what do you wish other mamas knew, maybe from something that you have learned about being true to yourself and expressing that highest form of expression of who you are? Because I feel like you really are rooted in that right now, and it's something that you practice. So what would you want other mothers to know about that?
Going back to the demanding, I feel like a lot of the words I'll use sometimes sound so, could be even arrogant, or just, oh, she's bougie, or all these different things people think, or actually have said to me, but I don't care. Yeah. I really don't. I listen, I take it all in, like anyone. Like I say, when you don't care, you do. But I take it in. But I feel like the reason why I have this fire under me now is because I didn't. And so when I was, married my husband, he played in the NFL. And so the NFL is a very selfish sport. It just is. And when you're in that space, you know that. And so not that he's a selfish person, but it is. Everything is on their time, on their, where they need to go, what they need, this and that. And so me coming back from like a culture of service, coming from religious of service, you know, that's just in my nature. I am that person. I am still that person to today. But through my marriage and through my, you know, having 3 kids, I was always of service. And I think as mothers, we're always of service. And that's not a negative, you know, I think that's beautiful that you can be that and that you can be so many things to everyone. And so the fire came from me is that I was always something to everyone, and all the women I saw around me growing up in my household, even women I met through the league, they were always someone to everyone else. And I didn't see anyone being someone to themselves. And so I thought, okay, something's wrong. Because I would have moments, honestly. I would be at the kitchen table, we'd be eating dinner, and I would just be staring. And my husband would be like, are you okay? And I'm like, But I was feeling like empty. I was happy. I had, you know, my amazing husband. I had 3 kids. You know, we had things, you know, everything we needed. I felt whole in that space, but I felt really, really empty. And it's because I felt like I didn't have something for just myself. But for me at that time to say, hey, I need something for myself, I'm like, how rude of me to even say that to you guys, to my family that, you know, I have to do all of this for. So I think it's like changing the idea of what that even looked like to me, right? Because you're reflected by a lot of stuff. So like, what was my surroundings? Who am I looking at? And that's that carving out again. I'm like, wait a minute, like something just isn't adding up. And why am I feeling like this? And so I just felt really empty for a long time. And so I just started exploring myself, trying little things, being creative, doing little things that I already love to do that I would do with the children, but do it for myself. And even now to this day, I'm like, hell, there's dreams and stuff you want to do, and you're busy as a mom, as a wife, as, you know, whatever role you're playing for others. Why not put another thing on there for yourself? I'm like, I already have all these things I'm doing for you guys. I was like, wait, why is not one thing for me? And why can it be 2 things for me? Why cannot be 3 things for me? I'm doing 100 things for everyone else. Why can't I'm already doing it. And you're gonna do it because we're women. And a lot of us gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna do it anyway. And I'm gonna complain about it. I'm gonna complain about it. But if you have your 100 things that you're already doing, then don't leave yourself out and put 100 things over here for yourself also. Because my thing is that you're not gonna give it up. You're not gonna stop. It's just who we are. It's just our beings, but also we're capable. So if I can do 100 things for all of y'all, I'm gonna add 100 things for me too. That's just for me. But I think that narrative changing and how you explain it to someone is difficult. When I had to go to my husband and tell him, hey, I need some me time. Like these words, self-care, all these words, they sound selfish. They sound like, okay, here, go do your thing because it's just for you, you know, you go do that. But I'm like, there has to be another word, and maybe, you know, someone can tell me this. There has to be like another way to say, like, I just, you know, need something for myself. And it has nothing to do with you. And like, you know, you say, oh, let me get whole so I can be whole for you guys. But I really needed that. So I started putting stuff on the front burner for myself that simmered, they weren't gone. They were just in me, you know, for so long, but I never got to give light to it. And so I slowly started bringing them to the front, and I felt like it started piecing me back together. I swear I felt like I was an out-of-body experience, that I was in front of me, and I was like, girl, wake up. Are you okay? Like, what's going on in there? Like, slapping me. And then I was like, oh, I'm sorry, okay, here I am. Because I had to bring myself back. I could not go to my husband and say, oh my God, I'm going through this. This is just my story. I could not go to my grandmother. I could not go to my mother. I could not go to my girlfriends and tell people, oh my God, I'm going through this, because I didn't know what I was going through. I couldn't find words. It was all feeling. It was all in here. And sometimes it didn't have even a name. Or maybe it didn't have a feeling. It didn't have an emotion. I couldn't attach it to anything. So I couldn't tell you the story. So it was just me going through my own. But when I went outside my body and literally shook myself, I woke up. And I was like, hold on. I was like, I'm back. I was like, I'm back. And so I started doing slowly, just little things for myself. Not only self-care stuff, but maybe my self-care was going back into art. I needed 20 minutes moments. You know, I'll put the right music on, have my little wine, paint, whatever it is, it was my little moment. So I had to let my family know that. I had to let people know that, because you're helping all the time. So now when somebody said, hey, can you do this, can you do that, you're learning new things. I'm so sorry, I would love to, but I can't. You know, saying no, learning all those things to put boundaries and put yourself first, and not feeling guilty about it or shameful. Also telling my husband, hey, I need some time for myself. He's like, what, for what? Like, you okay? You sick? Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I actually need some time, you know? And so putting all those little things that I'm already doing, I was still doing it all. I was still doing all the domestic things of the house. I was doing stuff for my husband. I was, you know, doing stuff for myself, figuring out a career path. I was doing creative stuff that I wanted to do. I was going to places that I'm like, oh my God, that's been down the street. I never went there. Go do that. You know, just the smallest little things that, you know, just added. And I feel like because I kept doing that, it was consistent, and it just kept building me up. And then I was like, I have potential. I have a lot of potential. Okay, I'm actually kind of good at this. But I could tell myself that before. I didn't even know. I was like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or I thought I probably can't do that. But you know, it's that thing that no more shoulda, woulda, coulda. I suck at that, and I'm really good at that, and it's because I've actually done it. It's like that friend that tells you, oh, that movie, oh, I heard it so bad, don't go and watch it. Oh, you watched it? No, but I heard it so bad. Stop doing that. You know, just go and do it. Figure it out on your own, and then tell yourself. But that's how, like, that fire started burning back up into me. And I was telling everyone this, like, it's like my body was like a beam. So I slowly had in those little holes of lights, and now I'm just like bursting.
I love that. I love that. Yes. I love that. Because I feel like, you know, a lot of times mamas, people in general, will start to build resentment because they're waiting for their partner or someone else to see their struggle and then to come save them or give them permission to go, you should do this, you should do that. So for you to eventually kind of wake yourself up and then advocate for yourself, which it seems like was a practice. It took some time. It wasn't just all of a sudden you were demanding space, but you had to work up to like, oh no. And then the more you gave yourself, the more you had the courage to take the space, to demand the space. And then you felt more energized. So you were still able to give, but you could also give to you. And now it feels like you're in a place of like really expressing the fullness of you, but also being fully present to your family and to your, you know, your children and your community. I think that's so beautiful.
Unapologetically. What am I being sorry for?
Yes. When we had our conversation before this chat, you had talked about the importance of betting on yourself. And I feel like it's really related to what you're talking about right now. But like, can you speak a little bit to that? Like, what does that even mean to bet on yourself? What does that look like?
I think that is trusting yourself. I say all these like positive things and like go do it, and like if you tell me you're gonna do something, I'm gonna keep pushing you to do it. That you know something you want to do, I'm gonna keep pushing you to do it. I'll be your champion, your cheerleader. But I also have moments that stuff doesn't work. I'm frustrated, I'm mad, you know, regular human emotions, and I literally will like go by myself. I'll go walk in the bathroom. Or I'm at home, wherever I go off by myself, and I have my moment. My moment of releasing that also is like I literally cry. I cry it out. And the crying lasts like 2 minutes. I get it all out of me. I literally, okay, suck it up, get back in there. And that's just my own little way, and I feel like you have to figure out what that little, you know, thing is that helps you recoup. Because honestly, we're not going to be joyful, happy, this and that, and we shouldn't, because we're humans. We should be able to hold all these emotions, and those are real, and like you don't want to neglect those or deny them, but it's going to build up. So for me, having a lot of those moments of just regrouping myself. Sorry, going on a tangent, but
You good.
back to the question.
Yeah, it's all good. You good.
Betting on yourself.
Yeah, betting on yourself. Since I'll start talking, let's just go left field. I'm like, wait, what did she say? Betting on yourself, it's definitely trusting yourself. I think that's obviously easier said than done. But if you go a little bit at a time, and like you're saying, like finding community, finding people, finding like-minded people that are in your space, that champion you, that want you to win. because you're talking about being around women.
Yeah.
You do have to be around women that want you to win,
Yes.
because that's another side
Yes.
of womanhood.
Yes.
You know, being around people that sincerely, authentically want you to win. You know, they're not getting anything out of this,
Yeah.
but you know, a smile. That's when you have found like the right people. They don't need anything from you. They're just like, I want you to win.
Yes.
I will do anything for you.
Yes.
But also, you know, you can count on them. I think finding that community, and I know I've met actually a lot of people that don't have that. They don't have, you know, that circle. They don't have that girlfriend. They don't have, you know, a family member that can help champion them, you know, in that. And so what does that look like to create that, to bet on yourself? And I think that's that practice and that process again. A little bit, a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like we don't have to have that miracle. One day I woke up and this happened. Like, no, a little bit. I took it a little bit at a time, but I kept it going. I'm consistent. I didn't stop. And when I had that hard moment, whatever that is that you can just kind of, for me, I just go cry it off real fast. I have to get my emotion all out of me and shake it off. I look in the mirror, I'm like, all right, girl, let's go. And I just get back up in there, and I just keep going, because I also know in my like vision what I see in the future and what I want.
Yeah.
And I know there's going to be bumps and there's going to be all these different things coming in that space, but that's what I want.
Yeah.
I really want that.
Yeah.
And so just recently, I have this new thing that I've been working on, and I had one of those moments that I got a call, and it was really bad news for this project I'm working on, and it made me a second go, should I keep doing this? Like I really took a moment and had to be by myself, and I was like, you know, you sometimes call certain people when you need an outlet, you know, to whatever it is, complain or say something. I was like, you know, I don't have anyone that I really wanted to say this to or speak to, or maybe it felt like a burden to them, or I didn't know what to say. But I was like, in my head, I was like, I don't know, I feel like maybe, you know, I felt defeated. I did. And so I sat, I was like just thinking, and I started crying. The tears came down. I was by myself, and I started wiping my face off, and I was like, I really, really want this.
Yes.
And the tears, honestly, like they were turning. They were not sadness anymore. It was like drive. Like if you were with me, you'd be like, oh my God. You're like, what's wrong with her? Like she's turning into something. But I was like, I actually really, really want this. And I feel like when you personally really, really want something, and you're putting all your energy and work and money and all these things, and it just keeps failing and falling. For me, it's like that passion and that inside, whatever is driving that fire, that keeps lighting that fire, I feel like that is like, okay, I'm gonna keep betting on myself. I'm gonna keep going. And for me, I had that moment, and I was like, I just really want this. And I really want to bet on myself all the way to the end. I don't want to stop now and have that moment again. I want to go all the way to the end. And if it didn't work out or if it fails, you know, I did it because I really, really want it, and I want to bet on myself and see if I can do it. And that's just what I want to do with everything I'm doing in my life. I keep wanting to bet on myself, and sometimes you can't always look to someone else, you know, as we're saying, for certain things. You can't. I can't go to my husband and be like, oh, because he'll be like, you got it, you're the best, you know, like, sometimes I don't want that chirpy pick me up, I don't want a hug. Sometimes I don't. I really want someone to tell me, like, stop crying. You know, like, I kind of want that sometimes. I'm like, what are you doing? You know, like, what's the fuss? You know, I want that. I want sometimes that tough love, and that also where I'm like, and sometimes you just have to give certain things yourself. You just do.
What I love about what you're saying is, like, one, the importance of vision. I love vision. Vision is so important, but it's like, vision is what helps get you through the tough things. When you have that clarity of vision, it's like, yes, I might be pushing through. I might feel like crap. I might have a little doubt, but I want that so bad, and I see it so clearly, and I feel it in my bones that even when I get there, if it's not exactly what I thought, at least I got there, because now I probably have even more vision beyond that. But also the second thing I love that you're saying is the little by little, step by step, showing up consistently, because I think a lot of people have this false idea that to reach goals, you got to take big leaps, right? It takes like huge plunges. But in my experience, it's not. It's a step by step, day by day. Okay, I was crying, but we still here. Let's go. Like for real, like this year for me, I feel like has been such an emotional year, like really striving for my biggest dreams, the things that I really want. But I don't think that people would know that, like, I'm crying all the time, and this has been a year where, like, my emotions, I've actually given myself permission to feel the fullness of my emotions. And sometimes I don't feel good, but I'm so about that vision. I'm so about betting on myself that I'm, like, determined to get there and to move. And so even if I'm moving slower today, I'm still here. Even if I'm resting, I'm still here. Even if I'm going quick today, I'm still here. It doesn't matter. So I love that you have that combination of the clarity of vision, but then also like the willingness to just kind of show up each day.
And something I've been saying a lot to myself and other people is shoot your shot. Don't hesitate. Don't wait, because time takes everything from you. Is shoot your shot. Because I've really been saying this a lot, is that sometimes you'll get a no. You'll get a yes, you'll get a maybe, you'll get a, oh, well, I can't do this, but you can go there. So for me, shooting my shot is I'm going to shoot the arrow, put it out there. It might not hit the target that I want, but it's going to hit something.
Yes.
And that's moving forward.
Yes.
It's going to maybe lead me in a different direction that I didn't know existed.
Yes.
Because sometimes with vision, it's like, if I don't get that, then it failed.
Right,
or
right,
I'm
right.
not doing good or that.
Right.
But sometimes if you're shooting your shot in general, it's going to go forward. And like you're saying, we're moving forward. So what's getting me forward? And maybe it's a different, it's a pivot, but I'm still moving.
I'm still moving.
Yeah.
I might be moving to the side. I might be
ditching
ditching something. But we moving.
A lot of dodging.
Yeah, a lot of dodging. But I think the beauty, though, when you are showing up consistently, it helps you to be aware of those shifts and of those pivots, so you're not really, like, surprised. So I think there's a beauty in, like, kind of flowing and finding that rhythm for yourself, because it helps you kind of see what's coming, but it also helps you hit the target. It's like when you have a bow and arrow, like, you're not like, oh, quick, bam. Like, a lot of times it's like, I got to breathe into it. I got to pull this back. I got to look at my target and then shoot, right? And usually it's that's when you are going to hit your target. Yep. But I think people have this false idea of, like, fast, move, go, productivity, da-da-da, and that's how you get it. It's like, nah.
Sometimes those days of productivity, I felt like, oh my God, I killed it today. I did so many things. And then I'm like, what the hell did I do? I'm like, what did I actually do? Yeah. I did a bunch of things, but I did a bunch of nothing.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because I feel like, family, culture, creativity is really important to you. And so I'm really curious about how you and Michael have, like, intentionally merged your unique cultures to create the family that you have. Like, I feel like you've talked a little bit about your family, the culture that you were brought up in, and how that's influenced you. But what happens when you come together with someone else who has a different culture and you're trying to merge that and your values to raise your kids? So was that something that was intentional conversations? How has it evolved since y'all were so young and now, you're here? I'm just really curious if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say it's a yearning. It's always been a yearning for both of us. Michael, he's from Louisiana, his family's from there, but he always has a yearning of his ancestors. So coming into my family, we're all about ancestors. We're all about, your lineage. My dad can go back 14 generations on one side. Wow. And so it's some things he noticed on my side. It was easy. Oh, she just brought that in this. And so I think, like, we both, like, piggyback and look at each other on things that, okay, how did you get there? Yeah. I want that. We go back again. But I think it's that yearning of wanting to know about yourself, yearning about identity, both of us coming from a diasporic lens, what does that look like within our spaces? And then also showing up in those spaces. Like, not only being in a room or at home on your bed, wondering, watching TV, looking at YouTube, reading a book. That's one way to wonder. Go out. Be in the community, find your people, find your culture, go to the lands, go eat the food, talk to elders. I think, like, when you're wanting and yearning, you have to get your ass up and put it to work. Go work and do it.
Find you.
Correct. And so I feel that a lot of my experiences growing up is because I was traveling so much young, I was experiencing it in real time. Yeah. And my husband, he... I want to say, not that he didn't experience things in real time, but he was also, like, his background in his space, like, his mom was a teacher, so a lot of, academia happening in their home, whereas my house is like out in the world and doing stuff and venturing. And so I think both of us coming together and kind of colliding those and like looking at each other and kind of mirroring like, well, I want that. You know, I like that. I'm interested in that, or I want to know about this. I think that our family spent a lot of time together, and we spent. So I got to see a lot of things and learn things from his family through Africa, through Louisiana. You know, so many things. I'm also, you know, we're in America. We're U.S. citizens. We're American. So I'm like, these things I should know. I should actually know this. And so for me growing up, I did a lot of work in advocacy work for like political prisoners and different spaces on that when I was on the road from my older sisters who were a big influence on me. And so we did a lot of things for different people. And so for me, I got to see other sides of the world, but outside of like my culture, and got to see other spaces. And then my husband and I, as we're, you know, looking at each other and mirroring stuff, like we're noticing things that we're really interested in that we don't have. And so I think it's also nurturing each other to like, oh, you want that? Here, let me show you how to get there. Let me help you how to get there. And like constantly having communication on like, well, what does that look like moving forward as we're wanting these things and we're wanting each other for each other? How do we make that happen? And I feel like, you know, I've met so many people that would ask like, oh, do you go to your partner and, you know, ask them or do this? And, you know, how do you communicate, you know, that? And for me, more so it was like, if they, you know, they can go find it. It wasn't like a lot of unity of doing it. Like, we're going to do it together. Like, oh, I'm going to support him. Like, he can go look for it. You know, I'll support him. But I'm going to be over here. And he'll be over there. But for us, I'm like, no, we're going together. So we're learning. And because we're learning it together, he also loves the world. So we're just fascinated by everything. And because we have 3 daughters, we're like, well, we're just now learning some things. Y'all definitely need to learn it because we're, you know, in our mid-adult life. They need to learn it, and I think that is also a duty of ours as their parents, but also as humans, and also our yearning of being outside of our spaces. We're like, okay, you know, you want things you didn't have for your children. So for us, learning, you want to play? You ready? I think that's like keeping that yearning all the time and being curious on what exists out there because we're living in this, you know, mass world and it's so many amazing and beautiful things and we consist of that. We're all like obviously here a collective coming from different backgrounds and cultures and histories and I think that's so beautiful. And so when you're starting to create a family, you have to think about that. I think that's almost like an obligation. You're a little obligated to think about that. And I feel like for me, coming outside the Pacific, it's like identity is always a topic. And I'm like, well, I'm a little exhausted because I'm like, I always have to prove my identity being in Houston. Well, what is she? Is she Mexican? You know, is she black? Is she from Louisiana? Like, I would be everything but what I am.
I got all those questions.
And then sometimes even to my own people, they're like, but you're mixed, but what exactly are you? So it's still, you know, it's always an identity thing. And for me, I'm like, I'm a little exhausted being in this identity, you know, who am I? And I feel like I need to I'm merging who I am. Because I am a Samoan woman, I will say that, but I am of the US. So what does that look like for me? And I'm creating this, you know, narrative of who I am in the spaces that I live in and merging both. I don't have to be only that or only this, and I want it all.
I want it all. I love it because I feel like y'all are champions of each other, but you also, I feel like I get the sense of just a curiosity and joy for life that both of you share. And so you can kind of like explore and be really open and it's not rigid, like we have to do this for us and our kids. But it's like, let's go explore the world. And as we get inspired, we're going to bring that into our family.
And you know, sometimes, you know, we'll take the girls to stuff and they're not showing any interest and we're so excited, you know, to be somewhere at a gallery doing something. And we're like, oh, why did we bring them? Like, they're just complaining. And I'm like, you know what? One day, maybe in this moment right now, they're not paying attention or they're, you know, I feel they're ungrateful. It's going to come back. And they're going to be like, man, my parents one time took me to this. And we experienced this. And I feel like those are the things that we don't realize that we're doing. All these little things that are piling up that are becoming our children. And their essence of being is like, we are creating that for them actually. And so putting that more intention into like what I want them to see, even though they're not looking at it today. Or I'm like, I paid all that money for y'all to come to this. You know, it's like a lot of that happens. Where you're just like, oh my gosh, they're not showing interest. They don't care. I know they'll look back and it'll be there.
No, for sure. I think especially because you guys are consistent in that, it's part of the culture of your family to explore and be creative and venture out. So it feels like, they'll definitely come into that.
I wanted to share this little story. So my husband, he did his, there's a company called African Ancestry. And so it's literally African.
I did mine too.
Okay, yes.
Okay, sorry.
So no. We're in Seattle. And so my husband is, figuring out where is he from. He wants to tell people where he's from. He wants to, tell his children. He wants that story. And also he's mirroring a little off of me, like, oh, she's this. And she's saying all these things. So he's like, I want that. Yeah. And so we met someone in Seattle. And she came down. She did his test. Yes. Then he had her do all of the Seahawk players at the time.
Wow.
All the guys got to do it. It was so powerful. And so she also gave us the actual information on what they do there and how it works. And so at that time, our foundation was doing things. We started moving into Africa. So we started doing STEM, and we're working with a company called organization called I Am Code. And there's an amazing woman that runs this organization, and it's for women in different areas of Africa that don't have resources, and so they would help young women learn to code. Yeah. And so at the time, we were just so happening going to Senegal for this because we wanted to go show up, to what we're working on and see it in real time, not just support from afar. Like we wanted to go see what's happening out there. So he does his test. I think it was like a couple weeks before we were supposed to go. He gets his test results back, and he is from Senegal.
Nah.
Like strong Senegalese ancestry and some other, local areas also. And so for that, it's like one of those things, we're like, is that a sign? Yeah. We're already going here, and now you're from there. So we go on this journey. We leave the kids behind. We go first, we usually we'll go scope out stuff, first timers. We have this amazing experience. Wow. And as we're coming towards the end, we're talking about it. And he's like, how do you feel, about all of this? Because we're both going through different experiences. He's obviously going through a rooted experience there. And I remember telling him, I don't think we should talk about it. Because I don't know if there are words really to say. And I'm going to miss something. We're going to leave. I was like, I actually would love to write about it. I was like, can we just write? Because I feel like for me, writing, I can really just let it all out. Sometimes I'll read back, I'm like, what? I don't know what I said. But letting it out on the paper. And so I really wanted to give that moment into a story and to create what that really looked like, because I didn't want to take something away from him that he was saying. And I also, you influence when you're speaking to people. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't want to influence, both of us influence our ideas. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no. Well, let's just pause and write our own story on what that actually felt and look like. And so I think supporting each other in your spaces of culture or whatever that is, I think it's important.
Yeah, I love that. And that's something that I aspire to. And me and Manu are going to take some journeys to explore more of our culture as well. So that's really beautiful. So I have a few kind of bullet questions, quicker questions to wrap up our conversation. The first one being, what is your biggest worry right now in your life?
Sorry, it was a quick thought too. You're like, come on. I think my biggest worry would be not following through. My biggest worry is I don't get to that finish line. I give up before. And I think that is something that is while my fire is, fueling, I don't want to give up yet. So that's a worry that could happen. Yeah. It is. It still is.
And then it won't be realized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that. And what is bringing you the most joy right now?
I would say an easy answer is to be in my truth. But it really is showing up as myself in spaces. Really being authentically me. Yeah. I've been in a couple spaces recently that I'm you're supposed to act or do or look a certain way. You have to be on good behavior or whatever that looks like. And I was like, I'm not feeling it. And honestly, this is just recently, within the last couple of weeks. And I didn't realize how much I really thought I was being myself. I was being myself until I really was being myself. And I feel like once that has happened now, I already have the fire burning. Yeah. I feel like it's just gaslighting me. Because it's so much more freeing. Yeah. I thought I was really being myself until I was. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is better. Yes. I'm getting where I need to go. because people are really more actually seeing me.
Yes, yes. And then you figure out who's for you and who's not.
Yeah.
So what helps you be whole? What makes you feel the most whole?
Feel the most whole, I think, for me is being creative. Doing anything creative and something with my hands. I have to be working with something with my hands, and it just kind of gives me like that little vacation I need in my head.
Yeah.
And I come back, and also coming to these events.
Thank you. And what are you most looking forward to in your life right now?
I'm looking forward to creating more spaces, creating spaces for people that look like me,
Yes.
creating spaces for people that don't have platforms, that don't have stages, that don't have the opportunity, that don't have resources, that don't have that vision,
Yeah.
or don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I'm excited for those spaces because I authentically like want to nurture in those spaces to help other people see
Their own potential.
what's there. Yeah, and unlock. We're gonna unlock everybody. So you can just be like, yes, this is me. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you kind of like see for yourself when you're 90? Like, what kind of person do you want to be when you're 90?
I love this question because I actually spoke with someone recently about this, and someone said they didn't want to be alive. Yeah.
Really?
Because they said, oh, I won't be, mobile or agile or this and that. And for me, at 90, I think I want to have no woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Yeah.
I want to have lived a full life, and I want to have experienced things, like those earthly things, and those human, experiences and emotions. I welcome all of that in, and I welcome in like the earth. I want to experience the earth, and I don't mean like going on a lavish vacation, like that's one way to do it, but just experience these spaces and these people that live here. And I go back to the beginning of talking about culture, and FestPac was also this week, and so having everyone in these spaces. I've been in Hawaii for 10 years, and I am someone in Hawaii, and sometimes I don't feel reflected. I don't feel seen, and I don't sometimes see my community. And that doesn't mean only that someone wants to live here. It's just what I see and how it's reflected in the space of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so for me, I want to see more of that.
Yeah.
But I want to be a doer in the space, not only just receiving. I want to be a creator in the space and a doer so that we can feel seen.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And what do you feel like your 90-year-old self would say to you right now?
You done good, girl.
I love it.
Can be a little sassy, maybe she can't talk all the way. She got one item.
Oh, thank you, Pele. Is there anything else that you would like to say, or any last words that you have before we kind of take a little break?
Yeah, I think I just want to say for anyone that is in doubt of something that they're going through doing or are in transition of, to go do it. Don't think about it. Don't wait. You don't need the community. Sometimes.
Yeah.
What I mean is that really like we were saying
It's
before,
your decision.
bet on yourself.
Yeah.
And don't have those regrets. And also going back to motherhood, like I said, you're already doing everything. So why not do some stuff for yourself? And I really believe that everybody has potential in every single space, age, gender, whatever you're doing, you literally can do it. And it sounds, corny sometimes.
Yeah.
But you'll surprise yourself. So go surprise yourself.
Yeah, go surprise yourself. Thank you, Pele.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was so wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. We're going to have a moment of a movement break. So every month, Nicole leads us a little bit of movement. We've been sitting for a little bit now, so we'll stand up. We'll get our bodies moving. We'll take a little break. And I think if we could do a group picture in the middle, I think that would be better. And then we'll have an open Q&A. So anyone who wants to ask Pele some questions, we'll do that. So Nicole, I'll hand the mic to you.